Help keep Kinks and Beats Daily ad-free and receive bonus content early with a contribution of 20 cents per episode. Visit herohabit.com/shop for more information. Welcome to Hero Habits Kinks and Beats Daily. This is episode 119. I'm your host, Tony Fry. Thank you for downloading as always, and I hope we're all staying safe and healthy out there. Today we are talking about the song Girl by the Beatles. It was released December 3rd, 1965 on their album Rubber Soul, legendary album. Rubber Soul is interesting because it's the last album that they would release two in a year. They did 63, 64, 65. They're releasing two albums a year. 66, All We Get Is Revolver. All We Get Is Revolver. Like arguably one of the greatest albums ever. 67, we get Sgt. Pepper and the Magical Mystery Tour EP, which is different than the album that we get on CD now. So that doesn't really count. But then, of course, in 68, we get the White Album, which is a double album. And in 69, they essentially record two albums, although one of them is not released until 1970. But this is the last time that trend is ending. And Girl from Rubber Soul is one of the two last songs recorded for this album. They're down to the wire. Deadline time is coming. And they decide, John and Paul collectively decide they're going to go home, write a song each, and then they pull a song called Wait, which was recorded for the Help sessions and was just lying around. They decide they're going to finish that one up, spruce it up, add some stuff to it, and release that. So they've got three songs they're doing. This song was recorded in two takes during a marathon session on November 11th, 1965, alongside You Won't See Me, which was Paul's contribution, and arguably, I would say maybe Paul's best song on that album. I'm trying to think of the songs on Rubber Soul. That's definitely one of my top favorite Paul songs of that era for sure. So John comes in with Girl, very weird song. And if you really think about it in the history of the Beatles recordings, this, I think, verily I say unto you, is the start of them getting weird. Okay, we have Rubber Soul here. And most of the songs on this album are traditional pop rock songs. Granted, they are expanding their sound. They are expanding their palette of instruments, their compositional techniques, their recording techniques. Everything is growing, and everything has been growing from Please Please Me on. But to this point, everything is pretty much standard pop rock stuff, right? They are not deviating a ton from what they do. And granted, it's getting more sophisticated and it's starting to sound cooler. And, as far as, sonically, it's sounding like they're really taking chances and experimenting and stuff. But at the end of the day, Drive My Car is still just a rock song. Norwegian Wood, even with the sitar, is still a pretty acoustic ballad type folk song. But Girl has them experimenting complete. This is not a rock and roll song. This is a Greek folk song. And when you look at, they finish Rubber Soul with the Girl sessions and You Won't See Me, which is a brilliant pop song. But they finish with the Girl sessions where they decide we're not going to be the Beatles, Mop Top Beatles. We're going to be this Greek band, and they're changing the sounds of their instruments and how they record their instruments in a manner to sound like other instruments. They're trying to sound like Greek instruments, the way they're playing it, the way the tones are EQ'd. They have the capos super high on the guitar to give it a much a higher pitch, higher bass line pitch. And they're definitely trying to come up with a new sound. And then you fast forward, they start the Revolver sessions with Tomorrow Never Knows. So I mark Girl, whether you like it or not, and I know this is a divisive song. I know people that love it. I know people that hate it. I happen to enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's a beautiful melody. The instrumentation's great. There's some gorgeous lyrics in it. And it proves, Lewison put in his book, and I agree with, it proves that Lennon does some of his best work when he's pushed against the corner on a deadline. You know, when he's got time to think about it and everything, he gets lazy. But when he's pushed against the wall and says, you need to come up with a song to record tomorrow to be on our album 3 weeks from now. I don't know if you noticed that. This marathon session was November 11th. The album comes out December 3rd. So they are literally right up to as late as you can possibly do it and still get the record out before Christmas. But I think this is the start of them really having the guts to take chances and trusting that their audience was going to follow. Now, this wasn't a single or anything. It's not like they went crazy like they do, 2 years later with Strawberry Fields and put out this super far out single. But they're building to that. And without Girl, who knows what comes up next? Do we get Tomorrow Never Knows and Strawberry Fields and Within You, Without You, and things like that? Who knows? But I think this is an overlooked important song in the Beatles' evolution as recording artists. So the second of the two takes was mixed a couple days later and released on the album the following month. And like I mentioned, it tries to sound like a Greek composition, and it achieves this. There's a few things. It's written in harmonic minor, which by itself is not weird, but if you use it in the right way, you can come up with harmonic minor is used almost exclusively when someone wants to sound like they're Greek, or if they want to sound like Jewish folk songs, Israeli klezmer music, stuff like that. Harmonic minor is incredibly useful because those are the modes that these folk songs are based out of. Russian music. There's a lot of folk music that is in harmonic minor. And all harmonic minor does is, let me grab my guitar. So the key of C minor, which this song is in, has 3 flats: E flat, A flat, B flat, E flat, and A flat. So to make a C minor scale, E flat, A flat, B flat. All right, that's a natural minor scale, no alterations. The harmonics minor scale, though, takes that 7th note and raises it a half step. So that last note before you get back to home is now a half step away, and that's where you get. Because it also puts a large distance between 6 and 7. So when you're in harmonic minor, because you're raising that last note, which in this case is you're raising a B flat to a B, in natural minor, we're talking in C here. The 1 chord is going to be minor, natural, obviously. And then the 5 chord is also minor. Because that 7th note, the B, is the 3rd in the G chord. I know that sounds confusing. But by raising that last note a half step, suddenly that G is a major chord. So we've got minor 1 to major 5. Right? Very different thing. And then, so he sticks to that pretty faithfully, except he uses a 1/7 chord. And I'm going to call it that, even though we can interpret this a couple ways, but just for clarity. So we start 1 chord to 5/7, back to 1, and then he drops to a 7 chord. All right, that's not an uncommon trick, but here's the thing. That brings back the B flat. So for that half a measure, he has gone back either to natural minor, or you could say he's borrowing that from the F minor, which is where he goes next. So he's kind of using this one little tone, and then he resolves it to the F minor. So it's kind of like a 5 of 4, but you don't usually need to use a secondary dominant chord to go to your 4 chord, right? But what it does is it puts this huge pull to F minor. So we're going C minor, whoops, and now F minor, instead of being the 4 chord, feels like a 1 chord. So it almost feels like he's changed keys here, but he doesn't stay there very long, because then he goes to the 3 chord, then to the 5 chord. So he never really truly leaves C minor, and that's why I said it's a 1-7 chord. I don't think he's really borrowing it from anywhere. He just didn't know what he was doing and took a B flat, and so he's going back and forth between this B natural and B flat, and it's a cool effect. And then for the chorus, he just goes to the relative major, which is E flat, and then climbs down. So he's doing 1 chord. Wait. No. 1 chord to 3 chord to 2 chord to 5-7. That's all that is. There's nothing there fancy. But that's it. That's Girl. Like I said, there's some good lyrics in it. His voice sounds incredible. They are taking experimental things with the background vocals. That inhale of air is processed and everything, and I know, it's supposed to sound like he's taking a hit off a joint, but whatever. If these are the little nods that they're doing to be bad boys, then so be it. But really listen to this song as a like the missing link between She Loves You, Yeah, 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 and Turn Off Your Mind, Relax, and Float Upstream. This is the missing link. This is the bridge between that classic Beatles sound and the new, more experimental sound that they are going to go full force into in 1966 with Revolver and going forward into Sgt. Pepper. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call, 925-494-1739. I'm collecting all these voicemails. We're going to start doing just listener mail bonus episodes pretty soon. The first one will come out pretty soon. Or you can email me, kinksandbeats@herohabit.com, or you can swing by herohabit.com and join our Kinks and Beats discussion group. I'd love to have more people in there and start getting some cool discussions going. It's right now drama-free, so if you're tired of all the Facebook noise, swing over there and just talk about Kinks and Beatles music. All right, thank you for downloading. Make sure to swing by iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.
This podcast is presented by the Hero Habit Podcast Network. Swing by HeroHabit.com today to comment on this episode and poke around our growing database of sports and pop culture news, reviews, and collectibles. HeroHabit.com. Collect your heroes.